And the basic story is a fairly simple one. Central banks can play a very, very important role in stabilizing the economy. And I would say the Fed actually has done that in prior times. So if you look back at the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, we had decades of strong, healthy growth with near full employment. And I take this really seriously. There are people who don't have jobs today, not because of anything they messed up. We have people around the country, millions, who don't have jobs because people in this town messed up. That is outrageous. It's outrageous that people can't get a job, feed their family, because people who are getting six-figure salaries don't know what the hell they're doing. That's the situation we have right now. Doesn't have to be that way. If you had people who are not brain dead at the Fed, or perhaps corrupt, and I'll come back to that in a second, we would not be in that situation today. Okay, you can have central banks that do make a very big difference. And I'll just give you a quick example here. If you look at, compare the situation of Spain and Britain, I don't know how much people are following these things that closely. Spain is in the middle of a debt crisis. They have to pay a lot of money to service their debt, and it's an ongoing issue whether they'll be able to do that or not. I think they will, but in any case, that's an ongoing issue. Britain has no problem. Their interest rate on long-term debt's less than 2%. Okay, what's the big difference? Well, Britain has a central bank that controls. Spain doesn't. For practical purposes, Spain doesn't have a central bank. It's part of the ECB, part of the Eurozone. It's under the control of the ECB. Really big difference. Looking back historically, again, I was referring to this period of prosperity we had, the 40s, the 50s, 60s, into the 70s. I say the Fed's a big part of that story. We go back to what happened before we had the Fed. Well, we had crises about every 20 years. So you go back, 1837, crisis. And when I'm saying crisis, think of where we were back in 2008 when we were worried about the whole financial system collapsing. 1837, it did collapse. 20 years later, 1857, it did collapse. Mass unemployment, millions of people out of work. They didn't wait another 20 years for the next one. 1873, they couldn't wait. So they had to do it after 16 years. Then back to 20 years, 1893, another crisis. Then they couldn't wait again. 1907, another crisis. Okay, and what was fascinating about the 1907 crisis was, guess what saved them? J.P. Morgan. Okay, now I hate the corruption of the Fed. We have an incredibly corrupt system. It's the only regulatory agency I could think of where the agency being regulated, in this case the banks, actually appoints people to the regulatory body. So it's like NBC and Comcast appointed people to the Federal Communications Commission.